Jang is a police officer who works very late hours and has to commute far from home. His wife seems lonely and wishes that Jang would transfer to their city. She jokes about how her neighbor might get a divorce soon, yet she ponders about her own marriage. One day, a man had fallen from rock climbing. However, it seems suspicious since the body had moved a bit too far from where he was climbing from. The body still had on its broken Rolex watch, which showed a time of 10 o'clock on Monday. Jang forces Soo-won to climb the mountain in order to help with their investigation. The dead man is Ki-do-soo. Jang is very thorough with his job. He makes sure to note every detail of Ki. Ki had his initials engraved in almost everything he owned. Jang stands above just where Ki had fallen to his death. Note how the ledge is right above the body, indicating that it makes more sense he fell from the top versus falling while climbing the mountain. Ki had worked at the immigration agency. Unfortunately, Jang isn't able to unlock Ki's phone. Ki's young wife Song arrives and Jang takes photos of the band-aid on her hand. She's Chinese, but speaks some Korean. Song wasn't that surprised her husband died atop the mountain. Jang notes that Song's Korean is actually fairly good. After processing Song and her bruises, Jang notices that her body had Ki's initials tattooed on her, as if Ki had owned her like property. According to the examiner, Song has a small fracture on her clavicle. All of Song's injuries indicate that Ki must have been physically abusing her. Later, Song asks to see pictures of her dead husband. She's glad Ki died the way he wanted to go, rock climbing. Jang explains in detail how Ki died from a fracture in his head and that the blood had been washed away since it was raining. During this, Soo-won notices Song laughing a little through the interrogation window. While doing the deed with his wife, Jang gets distracted and starts thinking about the case. He seems to have a strong liking to Song. Afterwards, his wife worries a bit. They've been married for 16 years, and she hopes they remain that way. A few days later, Soo-won and Jang stake out Song. Soo-won notes how Song doesn't seem all too sad about her dead husband. Soo-won gets a message saying they found someone else's DNA under Ki's fingernails. They will have to get Song's DNA to see if it's a match. Song is a nurse, and she's currently caring for an elderly woman by giving her an injection. During Jang's observation of Song, he imagines himself right next to Song. It almost gets a bit obsessive. Sometime later, Soo-won visits the elderly woman that Song was caring for. He asks her what time Song came on Monday, the day Ki had died. However, she is senile and doesn't really comprehend much of what Soo-won is saying. Meanwhile, Song goes to the station to give her DNA willingly. Song notices Jang's wedding ring, and Jang seems almost regretful that he wore it. During an interrogation, Song shows her the scratch she received on her hand from her husband. So more than likely, the DNA will match. Then, she shows how she scratched herself on her legs as a way to get attention from her husband. Then later, Jang decides to get her a deluxe sushi dinner, and it almost seems like the two are on a really awkward date. Soo-won notices the preferential treatment he gives to Song. Jang confronts Song about how he learned that Song was the only one of 37 illegal Chinese immigrants that didn't get deported. Song admits that she wasn't like the other Chinese immigrants because her grandfather was an independence fighter in Manchuria. She had special treatment. They have to cut the interrogation short due to a suspect in another crime being found at an internet cafe. Song follows Jang and Soo-won. Eventually, Jang has to chase down Lee Ji-gu, and the two fight. Song watches Jang get scrappy as he handcuffs Lee. Back at the precinct, Jang interrogates Lee. Jang realizes that Lee can't be the one who killed Bo. It has to be another suspect named Hall. Later, Soo-won confronts Jang for getting too close to suspects. He uses Song as an example because they should have gotten the proper warrants by now. However, Jang says that Song is innocent because she was seen on camera arriving at work. Soo-won comments about how Song is getting preferential treatment because Jang is attracted to her. During a stakeout, Song finds Jang asleep in his car. Song greets him a good morning. Song is aware now that she's being constantly watched, so she even starts to fake mourn the death of her husband. Jang thinks she's crying, but Song is actually smiling. Sometime later, Jang's boss gets upset that he still hasn't closed Ki's case yet. Then, Soo-won shows him evidence that Song had killed her own mother back in China. Jang sends Song this evidence, and Song immediately invites him over via text. Song tells Jang that her mother was terminally ill, and her mother asked Song to kill her. So Song used fentanyl to help ease her into the afterlife. Song then gives Jang a suicide note that Ki had given her. It's a note saying Ki had taken bribes from people to get past immigration laws, Then he would threaten them with deportation if they didn't continue to give him money. Someone had then threatened to expose him. So Ki had killed himself. During dinner, Soo-won is drunk and upset that they are ruling the death of Ki as a suicide. He reminds Jang of what he said before. Killing is like smoking. Only the first time is difficult. Soo-won then becomes so drunk, he breaks into Song's home and messes it up. Jang is very apologetic about the situation and even cleans up the place for her. He gives her husband's things back since the case is now closed. Afterwards, he asks Song over to his small place in town and cooks her dinner. This place is away from his wife so that he doesn't always have to drive a long commute home every day. Song finds all the unsolved cases on the wall. Song becomes really curious about the Hong case that's been bothering Jang. She even helps locate Hong for him. Soo-won confronts Hong but gets stabbed multiple times. Jang follows Hong onto a rooftop where he's finally cornered. Hong says he killed Bo for hurting the love of his life, and so he ends his life because he doesn't want to go to prison. After witnessing Hong jump off the building, his wife tries to comfort him through the phone, but it's not much help. Instead, Song comes over to help him sleep by burning all of his cold case photos. Then she tries some sort of hypnosis to help with his insomnia. Later, the two get closer when they visit a Buddhist temple. One day, Jang's wife smells cigarettes on him. What she doesn't know is it was Song's cigarette. She assumes Jang started taking up smoking again, but Jang lies and says it was Soo-won. In the middle of the night, Jang starts to text with Song. Song is currently at the hospital with one of her clients. So Jang offers to visit the Monday grandmother for her since she won't be able to make it. When Jang goes to visit her, Jang realizes she has the same phone as Song. When he goes to close her apps, it says that the grandmother had a tour of steps on Monday, when Ki died. This makes Jang suspicious since the grandmother can't walk very far. Jang goes over what could have happened that fateful day when Song's husband had died. Song must have purposefully appeared on video surveillance showing herself going to work. Then she exchanged phones with the old woman. She must have escaped through the window to avoid the same camera, then took an easy route up the mountains where her husband was climbing. Song then received a call from the elderly care company to confirm her whereabouts. Once Jang reaches the top of the mountain, he opens the step app, and it shows the same amount of steps as the grandmother's on her phone. Supposedly, Song had pushed her husband, and that's when Ki managed to scratch Song on her hand. Later, when Song visits Jang, she notices the hiking books. Jang confronts her about what he's discovered, and Song can't do anything but admit to what she's done. He realizes that the threatening letters Song showed him was all written by Song herself. Even the suicide note was manufactured by her. It turns out, the night Soo-won had visited her was all falsified as well. Song had made it look like the apartment was ruined by Soo-won. Jang feels foolish for having destroyed all of his recordings and evidence for Song. Jang wonders if she had faked ever having feelings for him. Song reassures him that her feelings have always been true. However, Jang still feels stupid for not seeing the truth before. He tells Song to toss her phone and the grandmother's phone into the sea. 13 months later, and Jang has moved closer to his wife in the city of Lipo to help with his insomnia and depression. A doctor tells him that his insomnia is due to not being able to solve the case. At home, his wife comments how he's aged poorly since his depression. Later, it appears Song is being threatened by Chul-sung. Chul-sung wants to know the whereabouts of Song's new husband. This causes Song and her second husband to leave the city. Song suggests they move to Lipo. Once she lives in Lipo, Song starts to stalk Jang, even coincidentally bumping into him at a fish market. Jang meets her new husband Ho-shin for the first time. Ho-shin is a famous stock market investor. While Jang's wife and Ho-shin talk, Song and Jang make longing glances at each other. The next day, his wife congratulates Jang because there's been a murder. She knows Jang is most happy when he has a murder to solve. When Jang goes to the crime scene, he finds a dead Ho-shin with a Rolex. He notes that the killer must be left-handed. Jang goes over to Song and wonders why she would do this again. For love, he warns her that her alibi has to be really tight this time around. Then, Jang's co-worker thinks it must have been the wife because there was no break-in, and Ho-shin was stabbed by the perpetrator face-to-face. Jang makes excuses for Song, saying that she isn't the killer because she's right-handed and that people grieve differently. However, his co-worker is suspicious since Song was already a suspect in Ki's death. Song was listening to the conversation the entire time. Back at the police station, Song and Jang are back at it again like before. Jang is interrogating Song about her husband's death. Jang notes that things are looking fishy with the last husband being threatened and Ho-shin being threatened, and now both are dead. Later, at her dead husband's house, Song hugs Jang. She admits this was the only way she could see him. Jang wonders what happened to the dress she was wearing when Ho-shin died. Song explains what had happened that morning. She discovered Ho-shin's body in the pool, but wanted to drain the blood because she knew Jang would feel nauseated from seeing blood. She even propped her husband's body up so she can finish cleaning up the pool. Eventually, she would burn her dress to hide the evidence. However, she doesn't admit to killing her husband. Then, Jang says he will have to arrest her since she destroyed important evidence in the case. Jang's wife hears the news about this recent crime, and she grows suspicious of her husband and Song. Jang finds out from his colleague that they should look into Chul-sung, the man who had hit Song. He's a gangster whose mom recently passed away. Ho-shin had frauded Cheol's mom of $10 million, basically ruining Chul and his mom's livelihood. She was a diabetic, and since she didn't have the money to get proper treatment, they had to amputate all her toes. She eventually died of kidney failure. Chul is also left-handed. Chul admits to killing Ho-shin. However, Jang doesn't believe this, since he still thinks Song has done it. When Jang gets home that night, his wife grows suspicious of him. She thinks he may have killed Ho-shin, and believes that him and Song may have done it together. The following days, Jang still tries his best to find evidence that proves Song did it. His partner wonders why he's so fixated on her when Chul has already admitted to killing Ho-shin. Jang knows that Song had tossed her phone into the sea and wants divers to look for the incriminating evidence that proves she killed Ho-shin. Eventually, Jang finds voice memos that Song had recorded on her Apple Watch. She says things like moving to the same city as Jang was all for him. This makes Jang smile. The two meet up atop a mountain. Jang admits his feelings for Song and how meeting up at the market has reinvigorated his life. When Jang goes to toss Song's parents' ashes, he accepts his fate to be pushed off the mountain. However, Song goes to hug him instead. She hands over the phone she had kept that would prove she killed Ki. She says to reopen the investigation on Ki, so they can go back to the cat and mouse chase again. The two kiss each other. When Jang arrives home, she finds a man helping his wife pack up her things to leave. She leaves Jang permanently. The next day, Jang finds out that Song had visited Cheol's mother the day she died. Song had poisoned her with fentanyl pills before leaving the hospital. Song knew that Chul would kill Ho-shin if his mother died. She orchestrated her own husband's death by killing an innocent woman. Jang confronts her about what she's done. It turns out Song had kept a recording of Jang saying he'll protect Song from being a suspect to Ki's murder, and Ho-shin had found out. Ho-shin had threatened to ruin both of them. He even tried calling Jang's wife, but she never picked up. This is why Song orchestrated her own husband's death, to protect Jang's reputation as a detective. Song hangs up the phone, then stops at the beach. She begins to dig a big pit to bury herself in it. She lets the water come in so she can drown and be buried alive. When Jang finally arrives, it's too late. He's unable to find Song. He listens to his own voice recording again, hearing himself say throw the phone into the sea. Jang never uttered the words I love you, but the act of covering for Song pretty much meant he did. He sacrificed his identity of being a good cop to protect the love of his life, and Song became another one of his unsolved cases.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.